So welcome everybody to the Product Management Night hosted by SAP. Unfortunately not at SAP, only by SAP. So we plan to have this in Waldorf and offline in person. For some reason that you likely know, we go now online and virtual instead of postponing the event. My name is Timo Wagenblatt. I'm your moderator this evening. And I would like to start to share some words about PMF, Product Management Festival, for the ones who do not know PMF yet. So Product Management Festival started actually 2012 by two guys in Switzerland, Adrian Zwingli, at this time the CEO of SwissQ, and Rafael Leiteritz, Director of Product Management at Google. And their aim, their motivation has been to support product management as a profession, which at these days was not existing in Switzerland. In the meantime, actually, PMF grew quite a bit. I will share some picture with you in a second that you see how big it actually went in the last 7 years. And also what's maybe interesting is product PMF is actually led by a steering board, the conference board, with representatives from organizations such as Google and Facebook, Atlassian, Zalando, Pivotal Labs, AVA, and also SAP. If you are interested, you can find more about PMF on the website, which you'll find the address here at the bottom. Our vision at PMF is, what we drive is that PMF strives, and we want to amplify the impact of product management. Not only the products themselves, make them better, but also the impact on the organizations. So help product managers be more successful and influential at the same time, adding real value in these organizations. So finally, that organizations maybe become product or product-led organizations. And as we are all in the board product managers, we do not have just a great vision, we also have obviously a strategy. The strategy in PMF, you can see on my next slide, if it pops up, just a second, technical issue, a little one. Screen. There you go. So that's our strategy. What are we doing to achieve this vision? One piece is our flagship conferences like in Zurich and Singapore, you likely know. You're currently part of another part of the strategy, which is the Product Management Nights. Normally they are obviously done in person by hosted by companies, and if you are interested in hosting such a Product Management Night, get in contact with us, get in contact with Anna, who is also there from the PMF side, and she's also, by the way, moderating the chat. She will introduce that in a second. So let us know, either in person when we are allowed to again, hopefully in a few months, if not, also virtually for now. In addition, we have to the Product Management Nights, exec circles, also in different cities popping up more and more, where we have basically managers of product management teams discussing in their round about their specific challenges and issues and help each other out. Then there is the Product Management Executive Program that PMF together with INSEAD, so the business school you likely know, is hosting. It's a 5-day accelerated training program with best-in-class from the faculty of INSEAD, but also from experts out of the product management world. So have a look whether this is a good fit for you. And last but not least, advertising the Trends and Benchmarks report. Hopefully you actually have had the opportunity to join the survey. If not, there will be a new opportunity later this year. Please join. So in the report that will come out pretty soon, it's free for you to download them. More than 2,000 product managers across the globe actually shared their opinion on the state of the nation in product management. So that's the strategy, how we want to help you, the product management teams out there as well, to really have an impact on your organizations and your products. Here you see, so there is also a discount for the ones who are part of the PM nights. We are still planning to have the event in Zurich later this year in November. This is a picture that has been actually done 2 years ago already, 2018, because 2019 the people couldn't fit anymore on this picture, just because it was growing again. So as you see, quite some fun, no social distancing. So this evening, I'm actually finished now with the intro. I will be later on help on the Q&A. As you see, we have two great speakers lined up for you today. We have Adriana Rotaru, she's a senior PM at IONOS, and she will talk about how to deal with black swans and getting your products to the market. And we have David Eastlund, colleague of mine. He's heading the billing and invoicing product management team. And he will talk about how to holistically managing your products with PYPR. With that, thank you very much. I would like to hand over to Birgit, who will introduce herself and SAP. Thank you.
So, hello everybody. I hope you can see my screen, or myself, I would say. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Anna and of course to all the board members of the Product Management Festival to make this virtual session possible. Feel free to ask any question you have in the Slido chat. Anna provided you via email shortly before the meeting. Now I want to introduce you to SAP because you're not all from SAP, but I see some of the names are colleagues, so nice to have you in the call as well. As you might know, SAP is world's #1 business software company with around 440,000 customers in more than 180 countries. 77% of all business transactions worldwide are running with SAP systems. 101,000 employees in approximately around 140 countries, and 80,000 partners are part of the SAP family. You could imagine how many POs and PMs are working in development. On my background screen, you could see a few of them participating in one of the events organized for our internal community. My name is Birgit Grüne, and my job is in our development learning organization to connect product managers, let them learn and share best practices internally, but also externally. Because we're not talking about product, we're talking about how we can run and get the products better market. SAP is not only selling business software, its technology is also used for humanity projects, for example, Welthungerhilfe, for nature and climate projects like saving endangered wildlife, and also for social projects, e.g. farmer support in the third world countries. So it's much more than we do. This brings me to the actual topic, Corona crisis, and its impact also for technology. I'm very, very happy to hand over to Adriana Rotaru, Senior PM at IONOS, part of 1&1. Adriana, thank you for sharing your experiences, especially now in the crisis. Please introduce yourself. Thank you for being there.
Thank you very much, Birgit. Thank you, Timo. Thank you, Anna, for organizing. I'm very honored to be here today and to present you the metaphor that is dear to my heart. So some people, let me share my screen first so that, yeah, so Anna, maybe you could enable me to screen, to share the screen. That would be great. Thank you. Okay, so share the screen. Yes, it's working. So hope you can see my screen now. And let's get going. So today, you know that some people know, some of you know that I love metaphors, and tonight I want to share with you two metaphors actually, and I'm very much curious if you are resonating with them. So now, first metaphor, like the black swan. So what is in the end the black swan? Well, a black swan is a bird that originates in Australia. And believe it or not, there was a time when people outside Australia they believed there are only white swans on this earth. So basically the first time when Europeans have seen black swans were in 17th century. And after that, century after century, all the people around the world have found out that black swans exist. So basically, black swan became a metaphor for a rare and highly unlikely event. We even have a definition of a black swan by Taleb, who made extensive research in his on the black swan's effects on investments. And in his book that is called The Black Swan, he's mainly challenging statisticians. So why I brought him up, because he is basically the author of this metaphor, and he gave the definition for a black swan as an event. So it is unpredictable, it carries massive impact, and after the fact, it appears less random and more predictable than it was. So does this sound familiar? So yeah, in my view, we are living black swan times. So in the first part of my presentation today, I would like to focus on coronavirus black swan effects on our business, and I'll be showcasing my product. And in the second part, I would like to talk about the effect on us as people in business environment. I like to do that because I feel there is a question in the air, and not only at work. When shall we go back from where we left? Well, actually, we're not going back from where we left. We cannot separate the economy from the virus. We just have to factor it in. Because black swans effects are actually here to stay.
Adriana, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Apologies. In case you shared your screen,
yes,
we can't see it.
Oh.
So if you could try again.
Okay, but it's good that you told me.
You have the rights, so should be able.
Share the screen. Share. Now can you see it?
Now it's good. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
So we don't see the presentation yet. We see your background picture.
No, I will show it. I will present again now. So.
Okay.
So you see it, right?
Now it's great. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the what I was saying is that basically the black swans effects are here to stay, and the next one, so I brought here for you today like really three examples that just bring us to the reality that the sooner that we understand that the effects are here to stay, the closer we are to understanding the long-term effects of black swan. So it was just the 9/11 World Trade Center attack. So after that, the airport security has changed forever. So if you can imagine a time when we could get on a plane like you get on a bus without an ID. Right now, we cannot even imagine that's possible. That was possible actually before 2001. Then also all the liquid ban, shoe removals, and all the things that we know that are happening in the airports. Then in 2003, the first coronavirus outbreak that basically came to represent a turning point when internet emerged as a truly mass medium in China and transformed this 400 employee business called Alibaba, if that rings a bell, into the 470 billion giant that it is today. The third example is one that happened in Asia, but had a tremendous effect in Germany. So the Fukushima nuclear disaster led to the Energiewende a trend in Germany. So basically, for those of you who don't know, is the Germany's planned transition to low carbon energy supply. Basically, all the nuclear plants in Germany are either closed or in closure procedure. So the energy sector in Germany changed for good after that black swan. Now coming to our coronavirus, the second coronavirus, we already can see some effects, and those are more obvious in Amazon. So Amazon really is facing unprecedented demand. So they are facing delays in delivery. They have cut their online Google ads. They have announced hires of 170,000 people worldwide for this year. They have announced that they will expand the cargo with their cargo fleet with 70 planes. While all this is happening, while really at this very present time, meaning Q2 this year, this Amazon sellers suffered dramatically for several reasons. They are cut off FBA. Their factories in China are offline. Maybe their products are not very suitable to these times. So yeah, positive and negative effects. Yeah. But for not all sellers sell on Amazon. So what happened in IONOS, so now I'm going to be showcasing a little bit my product. At IONOS, what we see is that subscription-based online stores sales have skyrocketed. So in the last 2 months, like March and April, we have seen the sales increase threefold compared to March and April 2019. And yeah, we know that this should have grown because we see that we have a survey showing that 42% of people in Germany, for example, buy more online since Corona. But how much more? How do we correlate these numbers with the numbers of online shop? Is 3 times good or bad? How do you judge in this situation? So what we've done, we took a look a little bit at the market, because you need some kind of facts when market is shifting. And what we have learned is that in March only, some data from data provider, in March only the market has grown 7%. But if you dive a little bit deeper, like always, product managers know that when you dive deeper, you find stuff. Of course, the sky is not equally blue for everyone. So what we see is that the DIY tools soared, like Shopify. Plugins took off, like WooCommerce. So both Shopify and WooCommerce grew, with all online stores published more than 100,000 only in March. While complex tools like Magento are really flat, they did not grow in March. So in a shifting market, since we at IONOS, we compare with Shopify, basically that becomes our benchmark. And not our own sales. So in a shifting market, not being higher than your competitor you're competing with, basically you're not good enough. So what happens when sales are actually higher than you increasing the product usage? For us, this means that the customer is basically crying for help. What we know that we have a good product market fit because we invested a lot in research, and so there is really a problem to solve. What do we do to help our customers to publish faster, so that we increase also in publish rate at the same rate we increase with sales? So we've done a lot of customer interviews. We've done testimonials, so that we understand a little bit better where they are struggling. And we understood very soon that they are struggling. They need more support. So we've done really a ton of work. Only in the last 2 months, we have increased support. We have improved communication on the website. So really small things, but in the end, you do research to find out what's missing. We have launched a user manual, which is not usual for a DIY tool. We have launched guide to sell on social media, really generic stuff. We have launched a ton of articles in our startup guide to really help them also start the business, not only to use the product. And we have participated to webinars, and we have a ton of things in production, how-to videos, white papers, and also we have planned new product launches, even easier products. So which are gonna come soon. So just to give you some examples, because yeah, after so much work, you want to see some results, and yes, seeing a happy face of a customer really makes your day. So these are real customers. They're customers that have opened a store with us in March during Corona time. And Brotklappe is Sebastian Luc from Weimar, who started a bread delivery during Corona. Then Abi Clinic, there are 3 guys from Göttingen who started virtual classes for baccalaureate preparation. And Wohlfühlmomente is Simone Rapp-Schneider from Landau, who has set up an online shop with IONOS in 1 weekend. So all this is good, but what does this mean for us as PMs? Because there is a ton of overload, work overload that's urgent, important, strategic, all the ingredients for panic. But no, this is a time when we really need to get into the flow, and that we need to do fast. So this is the second metaphor of the evening. So I promised you 2 metaphors. So the runner's flow. So this is a little bit from my very personal experience. When I run, first I feel pain, and then I know I have to keep going, and then I feel I'm suffocating, and then I just know I have to keep going, and then I feel because I suffocate, then I feel like I want to throw up, and then of course I have to keep going, because only like this I can go into the flow state. And then I get into the flow state, which is actually nicer than getting to the destination, because the destination is just something in between. And this is a little bit how I see the work as a PM. So what is the pain? The pain is the tons of work. You need to really have tons of data to be factored in the product dev, in the GTM, in the forecast, in the budget. Then you're suffocating because your stakeholders, and very important stakeholders, require facts. So facts, give me facts, give me facts. Like I said, is it 3 times better, good enough, bad enough? What is it? And then you really need to have answers and some facts that sustain your what you're claiming. So how do you know how your product is doing when the point of reference is shifting? I gave you an example how I search for like some kind of reliable data that I can go to create a new point of reference. And then you want to throw up. When do you want to throw up as a PM? When your product is growing at a slower pace than your competitors. This is when you want to throw up. And yeah, or even worse, in some other cases, is maybe sinking. What you need to do then doesn't really matter. You really need to go back to the customer. What is he doing? How did his pain shift? There was a shift that you really need to find out about. So yeah, what do you do when you cannot rely on forecast and on historical data? It's really a mess. You only have your intuition. And you have a customer feedback. Customer feedback is always good. You really need to go to your customer. You really need to listen to hear. You really need to be the first to really hear. But also, this is a time when you have to start to listen to your intuition, because you're an expert and you need to you know where to look, because maybe you don't have an intuition about something, I don't know, out of the of your world. Maybe you don't know when the next NASA mission on Mars will be, but if you have an intuition and if your gut feeling is raging about where to look about your product, you better start listening to it, because in the end, expertise is intuition is expertise on automatic pilot. And um, besides that, the customer is really, if you manage to help him open up, like we've done with the testimonials, like we've done with inviting them, you cannot imagine what how much they open up, and they tell you what are their pains, and you can answer them for sooner rather sooner than later. So how can we really sum up the things that you need to do, like a checklist for a fast forward reassessment of the product market fit? Because in the end, you know, you have a product market fit, but in these times when everything is shifting, you need to a little bit reassess it. So the first point that I believe it's important is to really talk to the customer, become like a salesperson, because in the end, like it or not, we are all in sales. Then invite them to really for testimonials, and yeah, so invest really time so that they open up, and after they've opened up, you need to really identify gaps and really go back to square one. And the big question is, what might we deliver fast to bridge the gap? Because sometimes they're not necessarily big things, but like really small things, like we've done increasing tremendously support or creating a manual or these sort of things that can help you bridge the gap really fast. Other times maybe it's not possible, but at least you need to identify, and then really be like radically open. That's like my it's something I really believe in, because there could be completely new areas to cover, and you might find space for new products or for completely new features, or something that was not a topic yesterday and today it is a topic, or something completely new. And maybe this is just like a recommendation. If you didn't read yet a Sprint, I really love the way they use how might we method. It's really a way in which you can really transform a problem into a solution. And then yeah, you also need to do a recheck to recheck your go to market, because your communication might not fit. You might need to improve some stuff also there. So this is my recheck list for the go to market plan. Yeah, so even if the product is already there, you need to really rediscuss with all your channels, talk to all the stakeholders, exactly like you talk to the customers in the end, because they are the experts, and if you help them open up, they have things to say. They know instinctively, they know where to look, where the problem is, if there is any. And another check is to look for emerging or completely new segments. Are there segments that maybe behave differently than before the black swan? What we have discovered, for example, was that we started to sell to young people, which was not the case before. That shop I showed, the Abbey Clinic, is not necessarily in our main target group, but now we need to address this this new target group. Then also the shifts in segments comes with shifts in marketing. So this becomes even more complicated. How do we address these new segments? Maybe with through some emerging channels, or even completely new channels. For example, if you are in SaaS, maybe schools, governments become completely new type of customers and channels, distribution channels, with all the schools now having to collaborate online. And then again, being radically open, exactly like you are when reassessing the market, is also being radically open also for the go-to-market plan, because you might need to change your product model. Is it like DIY versus DIFM? Is it like infrastructure versus service oriented? Then the pricing is like freemium versus like limited free time, 99 versus old pricing, and so on. Or tone of voice, do you need to be more professional or more emotional, or even partnerships? Do you make it or do you buy it? So everything has to be, basically there is no, you go back to square one in all the fields, and at least you ask again all the questions, and then you see what you get from the questions. My ever worry as a PM is like, these are the two questions that worry me all the time. It's like, what is the question that I don't ask? And what if my question is the wrong question? So like for me, this is, these are the questions that don't let me sleep at night. So to really sum up, there were people around, friends, is there a meaning in this? My answer to this is there is no meaning. There is definitely no meaning in this, but we can make a meaning of fighting it, you know, of it, as a team or as a family or as friends. And I really find this meaningful, how we work together or how we feel together online. This coronavirus has shifted our world, and with this resilience, manifested resilience, and with intuition, we managed to factor it in somehow. And then yes, we have to go back to square one, to our customers and to our colleagues, and this is how we are gonna get into the new post-corona times. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Adriana. Really interesting. And also, I think I would see in the questions area, and please, for the others, please add more questions or speak up in a second. Everyone likes your metaphors, especially the runner and the flow. I think it relates, it seems to be resonating with many product managers here. Anna, will you share the questions? We are opening it up now for Q&A to Adriana, and then afterwards David will do his presentation. So for now, please share either via Slido your questions.
Yes, I will just share my screen.
Yeah.
Can you see it, Adriana?
Yes.
So if you would like to start with the first one.
Runner's flow for product managers, great metaphor for requires resilience. What else do you see as key trait for product manager success? Well, yeah, so it's really there is no good answer to this. I think you have to love your job in the end. If you love your job and you don't feel your work. There is really a ton of work. And if you, I've made, and I also said at some point to some colleagues that being a product manager for me became like a hobby. And it's when you, if your tennis is your hobby, then when you train, you don't feel like you're working, right? So it's pretty much for me, these are like, I think in Corona times, I'm working like 12 hours per day, which in Germany is a lot. But it's I don't feel like it, because in the end I feel a bit like you know, there are doctors who can help with health, and with online stores we can help with on the financial side, because there is this financial side of financial impact of coronavirus. And when I know that my product is really helping small businesses make money, uh, this is important for me. So I feel I'm contributing in a very, very, very small way, but I find somehow. So I think you need to really find your motivation, and then you find the success for your product. In the end, the success is of the team. Yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you. Shall I read out the second one, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. My feeling is not always talking to the same customers. They might be stuck and unable to change quickly. What do you think about that?
Yeah, you always have sticky customers, and you always have those customers who will just try your product. In my world, so when we have tens of thousands of customers, so at IONOS we have 6 million. Yeah. What we do for product research, we do, and we find it very, very useful, is user tests. We really invite not necessarily customers that are ours, but really customers that are likely to need our product. And then we talk to them, we ask them to test the product and really tell what they believe. And this is tremendously helpful. So not only discussing with existing customers, but with doing user tests with those who might be interested in your product. From both of them, you can get really good insights. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think we have time for one more. Love the running metaphor. It can be tempting to give up at the throwing up stage of building. How do you stay motivated to get past that and keep going?
Yeah, you know, when you know that it's ending and you know the flow is coming, you just have to keep running. So
persistence.
Yeah, persistence and consistency. So you know, the consistency, you really need to wake up every day and do your exercise every day, and it will pay off.
Thank you very much, Adriana. Thanks. Timo, back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Adriana, also for the Q&A. And I would also like to welcome Lucy. She's also in the board at PMF, in the conference board. Great question, Lucy. Thanks for joining. Next on the list is David Eastlund. He will talk about how to holistically manage your product, and keen to hear, David, how you manage your product holistically. So the stage is yours. Please share your screen.
Attempt to share. I assume you can hear me okay?
Yes, perfectly fine. And we see your screen.
Does it just say Zoom, or do you see my presentation?
No, it says only Zoom. Now we see the presentation.
Excellent. Okay. So first of all, really happy to be here. Thanks, Timo, for inviting me. I think this is a very interesting topic of discussion, and Adriana's discussion about how we look at products and how we measure products, especially in times of crisis, is very, very interesting, how we assess their outcome. I'm David Eastlund. I've been at SAP since 2007, almost 13 years now. Prior to that, I've done stints at Oracle, as well as a few different telecommunications companies. always weirdly focused around the area of high volume billing and invoicing. So I'm going to walk you through a presentation today that's going to talk a little bit about what is this PYPR methodology, what is SAP BRIM, and how we used the PYPR methodology as part of our product strategy, or improving or refining our product strategy going forward. So first, a little bit about PYPR. So PYPR stands for the Product Yield Potential Radar, which means if you can look at a product and say, what is your absolute potential, and then what is limiting your potential? It's really focused towards product managers and the extended product team. So it's not something you can do in isolation. You do it with a broader team. The team includes your pre-sales, your sales, your solution management if you have it, your engineering teams, your consulting, your services, whatever. Whoever, I think the point that is made down at the bottom of this slide is it's everyone should be involved who can either contribute to the success of your product, or, as is often the case, anyone who is preventing or limiting your success from a product. And there's a prescribed process for going through this kind of an assessment, this product assessment, basically starting with defining your success factors, bringing the team together, conducting an assessment workshop, and then follow-on activities from the assessment workshop. And I'll get into more of that in just a little minute. But in the end, it's a combination of an approach, plus a methodology, plus a tool set that allowed us to kind of, from a BRIM perspective, really take a different look at how our product was performing. But let's talk a little bit about what is the product I work with, which is BRIM. I'll keep it short. It's not a commercial. We look at the digital economy from an SAP perspective, and we understand that a lot of shifts have been happening. One of them is a shift from purely transactional activities with customers where you sell something, you ship it, and it's done, to more of a subscription-based and usage-based solution area. We heard about, of course, there's like web shops that are subscription-based. Even looking back in time, you can talk about utilities, you can talk about telecom, but you can also look at things like Uber and DoorDash and Lyft and Netflix and all these different great new models that are coming forth in the marketplace around subscription usage. How do they impact revenue share, working with different groups together? You've even seen things like outcome-based, actually working with some agriculture companies on, the yield of a crop could be something that we would measure and subscribe to. So customers aren't buying just one thing anymore. They're buying services, they're buying solutions, they're buying end-to-end offerings that allow them to do what they wanted to do without having to have huge capital investments. This creates kind of a unique set of problems for customers, right? How do I share revenue with partners if I'm dealing with subscriptions? How do I manage the pricing? How do I make sure all the usage is coming in from a billing perspective? How do I look at loyalty rewards for complex products? And then some of our customers, and we have over 600 customers in just about every sector, from high tech to media, to postal, to travel and transport, to agriculture, as I mentioned, and big brand names that you'll certainly recognize. Some of them are in the media space, some of them are in other spaces, et cetera, but they have huge, the hallmark is huge numbers of transactions in the billions per day range if you're talking about major telecom carriers. How do you manage the invoicing after that? How do you deal with financial consolidation? And how do you automate some of these processes that are normally very individually intensive? So our solution to this focuses on addressing for our customers these exact areas. So we offer orders and contracts, we offer usage collection services, we offer pricing and charging, billing and settlement, correspondence, payment processing, credit and collections. And when I say we, this is the fun thing about SAP. SAP is a huge company. So part of our solutions we have direct influence over versus product teams, but there are also other parts of our solution where we're very dependent on a broader ecosystem, the broader S/4HANA ecosystem of solutions. And therein causes some of the areas where we, as a BRIM team, really need to take a look at some of the challenges we face and why a solution like Piper could help us with those challenges. So some of our challenges, and I'm sure we're not unique by any stretch of the imagination in this area. We have a global customer base. I've mentioned we have diverse industries, and they're very demanding. We have very large customers who wield a lot of influence, not only within SAP, but within the market, within the analyst community. And vocal customers tend to want responses very quickly. We have a global, diverse, demanding sales organization. I'm pretty sure every sales organization in the world is a demanding sales organization, but they're also structured differently. So in some regions, it's structured one way. In another region, it may be structured another way, meaning that we're sometimes dealing with different voices across the globe, depending on industry, depending on geography, et cetera. Our solution expands on a frequent basis. We do, in some cases, quarterly releases, in some cases, annual releases. We're looking at other ways to do that as well. But in any case, we're bringing in new capabilities, new functionality. We're building in cloud, we're building on-prem. So a lot of different things to think about. But we think about it in the context of a matrixed organization. So our organizations are, matrixed with significant dependencies and very decentralized management, which means there's no one person saying, hey, this is mine, I want to be involved in this. And in many cases, we have a lot of bilateral activity going on. So it could be product team talking to the marketing team, or the marketing team talking to the sales team, or the sales team talking to the demo team. And those are all great conversations, but if we don't have a way to bring it all up, we run into challenges. And some of these challenges could be things like conflicting priorities. How do we decide what really is our number one priority and why? We also have a situation where we have a lot of experts, a lot of people who've been at SAP for a long time. They have a lot of institutional knowledge in their heads. They're absolutely hugely crucial individuals in SAP. The challenge with that is sometimes all that information remains locked up in an individual's mind, and we need a way to kind of get that out of the mind and into a format where everyone can share and start to build like a joint viewpoint on certain topics. Roles and responsibilities can always end up being unclear in certain areas. And we do all of this with a very aggressive, competitive environment. We have everything from emerging startups to major corporations, other enterprise software companies entering our space. We have the legacy of telecommunication software providers trying to enter our space. So it's very difficult in terms of making sure we stay ahead of, or in some cases, just to get to parity with our competition. And of course, we have a really high level of pressure to succeed. And how do we measure success, right? Because revenue is one of the measures that we often refer to when looking at how we succeed. But in fact, it's a lagging indicator, meaning everything you've done before will help you determine how your revenue is. But what can you do to look at things in advance to help drive that? And have we, one of the major questions I often ask is, why are we limited? What is stopping us from breaking through? We've been very successful over the last 10 years, but breaking through to even a new level that's going to make us even more capable of meeting the challenges going forward in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and build out this slide a little bit. I have another picture here. It disappeared, but we'll go forward. So we looked at Piper, and Timo introduced us to this Piper concept. And again, it stands for the Product Yield Potential Radar. But it gives us a framework of looking, an approach of looking at our product from a variety of new dimensions, and new dimensions, especially for a lot of the people that had traditionally worked on the product team. I mean, on the product team, oftentimes we stop here around the product development area and maybe hit in the software demonstration and training area. And the product team, a lot of the folks around it, the development team, the engineering team, don't think much about go-to-market, don't think much about organizational maturity, and maybe don't think much about the market as a whole. And one of the things that we decided early on, but when we looked at this, was what are the areas that are inhibiting us? We could be doing great in product development and build the best product known to man, but if our market's not understood, if we don't have the right go-to-market tools, if we don't have the right approach that's balanced, then having the best product won't do us any good at all. It'll just always limit us in certain ways. So we looked at then the methodology that Piper brought forth, which is one, how do we understand what our success factors are, and we're clarifying the roles and responsibilities, and then we conducted these assessment workshops, and I'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. But it's the whole process that really allowed us to come to some very interesting conclusions, and I'll share those again in a moment. But our initial workshop was held, the first time we did this, in end of February, right before the black swan COVID showed up at our doorstep. We brought colleagues together in person, which was wonderful, from around the globe, about 25 different colleagues representing different roles and responsibilities in the organization. And we went through these 6 dimensions and approximately 31 different specific items, and we rated ourselves. Scale of 1 to 10, one would think that would be a very difficult thing to achieve, but it was surprisingly to me that the rating was able to be done with a lot of consensus on behalf of our colleagues. But we narrowed it down in the end. We saw that we had some key areas that were very much limiting our ability to grow beyond where we had already grown, and would be limiting going forward if we didn't do something about it. So these 13 activities that we tracked were priority activities. We went through each of them, and now what we do is a 30-minute, my fastest conference call of the week, a 30-minute bi-weekly checkpoint call where everyone who's responsible for these 13 activities, as well as the entire product team, remarkably, almost without fail, everyone joins. We go through these, we identify how we're progressing on the checkpoint items, any inhibitors to the checkpoint items, and what are our next steps going forward. And the goal will be, at least for us, to take these 13 checkpoint items, these action items on our part, complete them, and then reassess. So that's the next step, is to do another assessment, shorter, easier, likely, and this one will be uniquely virtual, and go through these dimensions again, and then re-rate. So the beauty is we've established a baseline back in February. We're going to be taking these actions, and then we're going to go forward and do another measurement to see how those activities that we've done have changed the key areas that we've identified as a priority. So that's coming up in June. The other great thing about this process is it's both an approach and methodology, and we have this toolkit. It's the PYPR-It toolkit. It's available online for us to use. The entire team has access to it. The tool lets you easily see where you are from an assessment perspective around the 6 main dimensions, your current rating, your last rating, and there's all sorts of cool indicators in there to help you chart growth. And then you can also, within the tool itself, manage the action items and the checkpoint process. But you get to an area where you can say, okay, what are the top 5 things we do well? You know, customer communication, pre-sales enablement, maybe. These are just sample, not exactly from my workshop. And what are we really bad at? What are we not doing well? And it can be within a whole dimension. So you can see, like, this is kind of a graphic, or the radar, of where we're limiting ourselves. And there may be dimensions that look wholly good in some areas, but really bad in other areas. And it's by catching these really bad areas and saying, okay, let's have an action item to address this, where we've really been able to, like, start to move things. So we've done some great work on the action items. You know, one of the action items we had was to expand and explain our vision and strategy going forward for BRIM. Because again, it was something that was in a lot of people's heads, but hadn't been fully documented so that we could have a collective agreement about it. And this was one of the things that's really come out and started to improve how we work together overall. And the tool fully supports that. So again, this is why I really liked it from a BRIM perspective, because it's something that in some ways seems like it just makes sense and it's common sense, but in other ways, you know, most people don't get down into these 31 different dimensions and decide, you know, hey, I need an action item against it. So it was it's been a great experience so far. But I learned some lessons. You know, sometimes just defining what the product is hard. especially at SAP. I mean, we're a part of S/4HANA, but we're also kind of our own product team. And even within that perspective, we have an engineering team that's divided into various other groups. So we decided to take kind of a macro view, which is the overall offering from our customers' perspective. Our customers are used to buying our BRIM solutions. So we decided we're going to define this product team as the entire BRIM portfolio of solutions that we have, which is rather extensive. This meant for us that we had to get the right participants from the extended product team across this entire solution area. And so some guidance we learned is minimally, we need to at least have one person representing each of the 6 core dimensions that we talked about: marketing, product, etc. Avoid duplication. You don't necessarily need 2 marketing people. You don't necessarily need 3 demo people. You may need more than 1 if they, for example, have a new viewpoint or represent a unique area. So as I had mentioned, from our sales perspective, we have differences in how our sales go-to-market process runs based on geography. So it certainly makes sense to bring in salespeople from, EMEA and North America, because that just provides that balanced viewpoint. Weirdly, people may require convincing to come to a product assessment workshop. The first thing everyone asked me when I invited them was, well, what's my speaking slot? When am I presenting? And I would say, well, you know what, actually, I'd rather you not present at all and just come. And that was shocking for people. Then they say, well, why am I even going to a meeting if I'm not presenting? But once we explain that we're trying to holistically look at our product and find areas that are limiting us, I was actually pleasantly surprised when 25 people flew in from around the world to have our initial workshop. Other takeaways: ratings are not a math problem. It's a 1 to 10 rating. A 10 is really hard to achieve. A 10 means you have mastered this area with documentation and cross-organization understanding of everything related to that particular area, so that there's no question that we're experts in that area. So, but you also have different viewpoints. You'll have somebody say, I think we are the worst when it comes to demonstrations. And then you'll have another person say, oh, well, we have great demonstrations. And even during this checkpoint, we'll then say, okay, you say it's great, you say it's terrible. Can you share with us what is great? And they'll jump into their laptop, maybe throw up a real quick example of some of the demos that they've done in the past. And we'll say, okay, so maybe it's not a 1 or a 10, maybe it's a 5, but an action item we might take away from this is the person who just showed and shared that demo can help us to get that demo out to the rest of the product community to support BRIM. And that means action items are going to be plentiful, but we're not trying to boil the ocean after every checkpoint that we do. We're trying to make progress towards a goal of balance. So for our first one, we did 13. A lot of those now are closing out. Our next one is coming up, and I think we'll probably have a few more, but we might focus on different areas because some of the new areas might rise higher up to the critical priority. Checkpoint calls, again, we keep them short. They're painless and they're focused. We just go through, what have you done? What are you going to do next? Are there any blockers? But everyone is involved and everyone gets to hear this. And there are lots of requests for follow-on discussions that we then action going out of these meetings. And then I think the point I made at the beginning was, for us, this is a journey. The first assessment just sets a baseline. The subsequent assessments are going to reveal the results and the progress as we go forward. But the goal is really just to get to a point where we have balanced growth in our product. We're firing on all cylinders, as they say, across all of these different dimensions. And it's really only by addressing all these dimensions, and I think, it was made previously the same point, will we be able to avoid any kind of limitations on our solution and our product in the marketplace. So appreciate your time on that. The presentation I'm sure people will get has contact information for both myself as well as the Piper program in and of itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Again, to everyone, have a look, ask questions via Slido, if possible. Great presentation, David, but I have to say I'm a bit biased, obviously. Anna, maybe we want to share your screen and read out the questions if there's questions already there.
Yes. Can you see it?
Not yet. Now it's there. Yes.
Great. Okay. Let's start. One moment, I'll refresh my screen. Right, so there we go. Do you think, that's from Martin, the Piper approach can also be useful for smaller companies than SAP?
Oh, absolutely fair question. I think yes. I mean, SAP is a big organization, but I would also say if you think about it from even a startup organization, there's a lot of things that people rush to do in smaller companies and even in startup companies that may be like, you know, just focusing on building the new product. And the product is great and the development effort worked, but you have to make sure that when you go to market, even on your initial go to market in a smaller company, that all of these attributes that we're talking about inside the assessment are covered. So you don't have an option to not have a go to market plan, even if you're in a smaller company. You need demos, you need good customer feedback. All these things are applicable regardless of the size, and I would say even the stage your company may be in. But it's a good question.
Thank you, David. Moving on to the next one. How did you overcome the silos between the different teams and team objectives, and why has this been a problem before?
Well, I can't speak to why silos exist in organizations. I think that's a whole different discussion. Any large organization is going to have silos. The organization I'm in, I wouldn't say had as many silos as it did. We had a lot of recent changes over the last couple of years. And those changes kind of created barriers between organizations that we previously hadn't had. And one of the things that actually I used as a pitch to people to come to this meeting was to remind them of where we had been in the past, where we had been a very cohesive organization. And, you know, yes, organizations change, but we still all have the same goal, which is the success of this product and the success of our customers. So I think it was that pitch to them that let them know that we're at least serious. This isn't just another point. This isn't just a one-time show up, we do a nice little report, and then we throw away all the input and move on to the next thing. We made a very strong commitment early on that we're going to see this through, and it's going to become something that we do more than once, because I think only from doing it in a recurrent way, you really get to see and unlock some of the value that comes out of that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I think we have time for one more. How did you get people engaged and introduced? So introduced and engaged to the approach.
You know, we invited a lot of people. We actually sent a rather cryptic "you're invited, save the date" email to everyone. And I think that actually caused a lot of feedback to me. And that's where I started getting, you know, well, hey, when am I presenting? Can I have a slot on training? Can I have a slot on demo, et cetera, et cetera. And as I started to say, no, I really don't want any presentations. We don't want you to come to the session with preconceived notions and presentations. We just want to bring you and your expertise. And I think that was really a mind shift for a lot of people, because I think sometimes when people go to meetings, what they do is they think, what am I going to say before they get to the meeting, versus they came with no preconceived talk track. So it was really a dialogue between people. And I think that just the idea of being able to do that, which is kind of rare in a lot of companies these days, was something that they were really excited about.
Thank you. Thank you, David. If someone else has questions, they can also just ask to be unmuted. Anyone?
Yep.
Chat is also open.
Seems not to be the case, right? Thanks, David. Once more. Thanks, Adriana. Once more.
Oh, we have one. Sorry.
Oh, we have one. Sorry.
David, how can a product be limited if the product is great?
Oh, well, that's a good question. The product itself can be great. I've seen no end to wonderful things on the internet come out. But even if you say that's the coolest gadget in the world, if you don't have the proper alignment, the proper support, the proper go-to-market, all the things that make up the success of the product, then the design of the product, which is what a lot of people specifically tend to focus on when thinking about products, the design itself, you know, and the functionality of that product might be the best thing since sliced bread. But if no one knows about it, if no one uses it, if no one sells it, if no one talks about it, then you have a lot of different areas which are going to cause you to have problems going forward. At least that's my viewpoint.
Timo, to you.
Thank you very much. I said thanks to both speakers. Great presentations. Thanks for everyone who spent the time the last hour with us. And I know even most of us likely are in the home office, and actually home office is exhausting. And thanks that you shared your 60 minutes of your day with us, or a bit more. And hopefully we can see you again and again. If you are interested in also host a PM night, let us know, let Anna know, so that we can get this organized. Not a lot of work for you. We support you. And as we all know, sharing is caring. So let's care about the product management community. And thank you very much for joining. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you from me too. We know everybody's having a Zoom overload these days, but it was great having you. Thank you, David, Adriana, David.
Thank you as well.
Cheers. Nice seeing you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.